So excited for what we have going on today. Paid ads, it really is the best way to scale your roofing company, but can also be one of the most expensive if not done correctly. I mean, you can really light money on fire if you really don't know what you're doing and are just dabbling in this. So that's what this whole webinar is about. We're going to cover that all in depth. And this is our agenda for today. We're going to talk about why paid ads is unlimited lead flow. I always kind of like to think of it as Google's way of monetizing what they've already given you for free, like SEO or even like foot in the door stuff like local service ads, the Google Maps and stuff like that. But it's their product, and it really is the key to unlimited scalability in terms of how many jobs you want, how many leads that you have coming in for your roofing business. We're also going to go over what's working right now, paid wise. This stuff always changes. We always have to keep very up to date on this because at the end of the day, things are changing rapidly. You've got AI coming in looking to steal Google's lunch. Google's got Gemini and they're shipping out computers with Gemini only. When you look at the search results, you have the AI summaries at the top of search nowadays as well. So like, what's that going to look like in the future? Obviously, they're going to try to monetize it. Everyone wants their pound of flesh. Google, of course they want it. They're monetizing this as best as they possible. And so is the AI platforms like ChatGPT and all the other guys, right? We're actually going to show you real campaigns and real breakdowns of how those campaigns work, and then different campaigns for different things, like different tools for different jobs. How to structure your pay-per-click campaigns the correct way. You don't want a pay-per-click campaign that's like a pizza with 50 toppings. I always kind of use that analogy. And then the ROI of all this, like what is the ROI I can expect from doing paid ads? Because at the end of the day, we're not doing this to make Google rich or a marketing company rich or anybody other than, yourself, your family, your team, your business, make money and keep everything going. The biggest frustration I hear is people feel like they're washing money or burning it up when it comes to running Google ads the wrong way. And then also with no true ROI. So this is really going to touch on all those points and tell you how you can overcome those frustrations and those challenges. And we do that through metrics, tracking. So we're definitely going to get into that. Next, a little bit about me. Why the hell should you listen to me? I've been doing this for 25 plus years. I can confidently say I'm the only roofing marketer that has been on Fear Factor twice. I mean, yes, this was in my mid-20s, 2002, 2003. That I won $50,000. That's how I started my first web design company 25 plus years ago, which became into web design and SEO, which became into web design, SEO, marketing. And then we niched down to contractor marketing, and then finally niching down to roofers and exteriors, which is where we're at now. And that's always been a really good fit for us. Family-wise, we have a big construction background as well. So on to the next. This is my brother and partner, my younger, better looking, nerdy brother. He's the guy that actually gets his stuff done. He's the one that runs the operations, runs our 8-man team, and he's the technical. This is not some theory. This is how we put food on the table for our real roofing partners. And next up, this is for the people that don't want to wait to the end. We always give away free goodies and stuff like that. I usually put it at the beginning in case you have to hop off for whatever reason. But Clixies, this is like our secret weapon. Think of all the junk you get, all the spam. They say 60% of the internet is bots, junk, and people from other countries. You're not going to service a roofer in India, right? So why are you getting traffic? Why are these people clicking on your ads? This is like the secret weapon. If you're spending thousands and tens of thousands of dollars on Google ads, this retail is $100, $150. We're giving it away for $30 a month at 70% off for the first 5,000 visits and $50 a month for 10,000 visits. We will gladly give you a free consultation and look at your current pay-per-click advertising and run it through and see not only what you're doing, low-hanging fruit, right, wrong, but also like your competitors, bigger companies. There's companies out there that spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on roofing service advertising on Google. We'll gladly run that quick competitor report. Then for those that at any point in time you want to tap out, you don't want to dabble as a marketer, you don't know who to trust or what to do, we'll always be able to step in and give you that secret cheat code where we do the heavy lifting and show your competitors, your entire funnel, keyword list, ranking reports, how you rank on Google, how you rank on the maps, how your ads are working out, how you rank on AI, your directories, your listings, your overall entire ecosystem will gladly do that for you. And this is our accelerated growth map. We touch on one of these points once a month minimally. And right now we're going to be touching on paid and then the ROI behind paid, because who cares about paid if it's not making me money and I'm not able to scale my business, then who cares about all this? Paid ads is one of those things. It's the fastest way to scale. But if you don't do it right, you could burn money. You could just light it on fire. That being said, it's also like starting a fire with gas. You have these things like SEO and AIEO, whatever you want to call it, and Google Maps and content creation and videos and stuff like that. But that's long-term goals. That takes a while to build up and scale, especially if you've tried to do it, you really know that, right? But this is like the simplest, most effective way to get to the top, but Google's going to tax you for it. So you have to always have the math right. At the end of the day, this is hard work. If it was easy, everybody would have $20 million roofing companies. And that's what I'm here to guide you through this and show you what's ahead. And along the way, we'll point out low-hanging fruit. This is the entire ecosystem, everything that we do. We're only going to hit this one sliver, which is going to be the paid ads. But the paid ads really do reinforce maps. They reinforce your local service ads. They reinforce your organic rankings, your AI summaries. And you can see there's so much here to tackle, but right now we're just going to talk about this little sliver. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to gamble with your time and money like a casino and just think, oh, I'm going to do everything. Like, no, you need to do the low-hanging foundational stuff first and then stack your wins on top of that foundation. And that's pretty much what our whole funnel is all about for roofers. All right, so let's get rolling. We're going to talk about next. We'll define the problem, outline the solution, and talk about the next steps towards success. Why paid search should be part of your roofing marketing strategy. It's fast, right? It scales, right? You can show up as much as you want, wherever you want. Google is very geocentric, meaning if I'm searching for best pizza near me, I'm going to get the guy down the street or in the vicinity. So this is a way to take Google's search engine algorithm and game it. You're paying to be in traffic that you would never get organically on Google. And there's no limit. You're only limited by your goals, your budget, and your ability to perform. This is also like our ecosystem, like right here, the traffic, these are leads, and this is time. You can do just content creation, SEO, videos. You could do that alone, but you could see it takes so long to ramp up, right? So when you're working with any kind of company, like you need money out of the gate to pay for all this. So we start the fire with gas. We use pay-per-click in the beginning, even minimally. You don't need these big $1 million budgets or anything crazy, but you do need leads out of the gate so you're getting re-roof jobs right here, right now, while your long-term stuff is cooking. Building a fire with gas, building a fire with wood. Pay-per-click is gas, content creation, optimization, AI, that's with wood, right? I'm going to show you kind of like the pyramid. We're only going to dive in one section of this pyramid, but I want to outline it for you because it's different tools and they get different jobs done, right? So as a whole, you're going to have your organic foundation, your website, your Google business profile, your database where you have all your contacts in. Those are your assets that you actually have, right? And then we're going to be going on the second tier, which is going to be supporting that foundation, paid search, local service ads. We did a training on local service ads. I'm going to give you the link to that full training. We're only going to touch it so I can kind of outline it, but this is really going to be about Google ads and paid search. And then we're going to be doing a deep dive on all these other tiers. Retargeting automation, retargeting ads, that's a little bit later in the top of the funnel. So basically, paid directories, pay per lead. I'm not the biggest fan of like Angie's List or Home Advisor or Yelp. To me, paying for a shared lead is a very quick way to the bottom of profitability. It's like a race to the bottom. Like think of the tire kickers. Think of showing up as the last roof inspection after they've already had three or four, right? It's going to be rough. So this is really going to be about paid search, the organic foundation, and we'll touch on these other ones at a later date. Social ads, not really the best way to get a new lead because it's a different intent. If I'm sitting around laying in bed, farting around on Facebook, all of a sudden your ad pops up, that's a lot different than like I have a hole in my roof right now, like a storm just came through and ripped it off. Like I need to work with somebody and who can get to it today. I need to go to Google and find this person. That's a whole different intent. And we're going to really dive into that later on. And these top tiers, these are for if you're doing like 10 million and above, that's where you'll start implementing these. For under 10 million, paid search, local service ads are really the best way to go and get your feet wet. And now it's time to do a little bit of math, right? All this always has to make sense from a math point of view. So you really have to sit down and scratch your head and figure out like, what are my goals? What am I trying to accomplish here? And then what is the math that's going to get me there? So you're going to have to write it down. And what I did was I put together just for adding $1 million in additional revenue on top of whatever you're doing, right? You're going to have for 1 million, let's say that's 50 roofing jobs, you're going to need 250 qualified leads, right? And I'm not talking about junk leads, like people trying to sell you a Xerox machine. Remember, you're going to get 40% of your leads are going to be junk. So out of 400 leads, only 250 of them are going to be good. The rest are going to be people trying to sell you Xerox machines or just complete and utter junk. Things out of your areas, things you can't service, people from other countries, whatever. I usually like to use a 20% close rate. You could have a higher, you could have 25, 30. I always like to use numbers in the lowest form, worst case scenario numbers. That way you're planning for that. I don't like to use the best case scenario that everybody else uses. So yeah, 1 in 5 leads turns into a roof. So 250 leads times 20%, that's 50 jobs. 50 jobs times 20,000 a roof, which is like about the average in my area. You would need 50 jobs to get to 1 million, right? So if you're in other areas, you're going to need more jobs. If you're in an area that's high end, like metal roofs, tile, $50,000, $100,000 roofs, you're not going to need that many jobs, right? But I like to use this as an average because 20,000 is the average for a lot of different areas. And we also have, my brother Chris created this. It's an AI strategist tool. We covered this in depth on the last webinar that we did last month. This is a great tool to help you strategize. And he's constantly updating this and feeding it information. So it's a good one to bookmark as well and help you come up with your own numbers. So let's pop the hood and get our hands dirty. Mistake number 1 is not starting with local service ads. We did an entire training at the end of last season all about local service ads. I'm just going to talk about them. I'm not going to really dive deep into them because I want to spend our time talking about Google ads, which is a lot tougher to do than local service ads. Local service ads, you only have certain knobs that you can pull and tweak. A lot of it's automated, but it's low-hanging fruit, and you do have to start here first. And I kind of like to think of it being a child of the 80s, but they used to do these campaigns, this is your brain on drugs. Local service ads really are like the gateway drug for Google ads. They want something simple that they're not producing enough of. Like they know that you're going to love these ads because here they are. They pop up at the top. They look like your map listing over here. They have your reviews. It's pay per lead, not pay per click, so you can gauge exactly how much you're spending without having to worry about how much am I bidding, what area am I in, all this other junk, right? So it really is their like foot in the door gateway. They were sitting around scratching their heads like, how do we get people in the Google ads that are too chicken to start them or don't want to This is it. But they know that they don't have enough inventory to sell you. So you start getting jobs off of this and you're like, okay, this is profitable. This is great. That being said, these are tough to scale, but these are also a great customer acquisition cost. The problem is it's not going to be able to support over a million, 2 million, 3 million to enough leads. But then what's your conversion? Like the second column right here, this is the cost per acquisition on average. And then he also gives you a summary of what tool to use for whatever else, like local service ads are highly vetted, perfect for contractors, pay per lead. Shared leads, those are low cost per lead. You're shopping tire kickers, right? Buying exclusive leads, way higher cost, but it's different tools to get you through different things. All right, let's move on to Google Ads, aka pay-per-click, aka AdWords. We're going to talk about the why in the upcoming slides. Like, why do this? Why is this so important? Why is this so compelling? And to make sure you're committed to seeing, like, this is driving ROI. Am I committed to driving ROI with Google Ads? It's one of those things that's very complex. It's not one of those things that you just kind of want to dabble in. Me personally, I don't do them. I have somebody that's all they do is Google Ads for roofers. Like that's his specialty. So here's the Google Ads, right? So these were the LSAs that we talked about, the local service ads that we talked about before. Now these are the actual Google Ads over here. These are Google Ads on a map, and this is just a text ad. But beware, you can see hide the sponsored result. They have these little buttons that you could hide these things nowadays too. LSAs are like the gateway drug to these. So you definitely want to be here first. And then this is what we're going to tackle. And I always like to use this little analogy of you have a beachfront property and then Google, what they do is they get you drinking the Kool-Aid and then they take your house and they move you a couple blocks down. That's kind of what they do with a lot of their products. And it just seems to always get more expensive over time. So let's talk about the main reason that Google ad campaigns fail. And I see companies that spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars making the same mistakes. They're not mapping the buyer's intent. The intent has to match the actual ad, right? There's a difference between residential roofing services and commercials, right? It's a different buyer completely. Different types of services. There's definitely a difference between an ad of emergency roofing services, roofing repair, replace, gutter, siding, doors, windows. You don't want to lump them all together. You have different ad campaigns with different intent, and it has to go to a specific landing page. It's very specific. And that's pretty much the main reason why a lot of these fail. Top reasons, people just don't understand the auctions. They always think it's just more money, more money, more money. It's not. It's the quality of the content, the quality of the ad, matching it up with who you're marketing to, whether it's emergency services or roof replacement or a flat roof or whatever it may be, and going after that. You have to make sure everything matches. The messaging on your ads, the landing page, or it could go to a web page as well if it's an optimized web page that's specific. Like you don't want to just drive all this to your home page. And the call to actions, the CTAs, to get them to click on the ad. And we're going to dive into all that stuff pretty deep, right? You want to understand the auction. Don't lump it all together. Specific landing pages and web pages and strong CTAs. And you can see kind of like this guy, jack of all trades. All right, so now let's talk about the real reason why we should be running Google Ads, and it's to drive ROI. And I put together a couple case studies for you for our accounts. So people think that it's very expensive. Yes, it is very expensive to generate leads and generate business on Google. It's probably one of the more expensive, but if the math makes sense, you're going to have an ROI on it. It can be done. This was in a non-competitive area of Norwich, Connecticut, and these were $23 a lead. And we couldn't get for that cost a million of these leads. Wish we could, but we did get them almost about 100 leads, right? And it was for a free gutter campaign with the roofing services. And these were search ads, and we were just targeting mostly audience 35 to 65, top 41% of the income class. And these are all levers that you can really tweak and dive into. And that's what our specialists do. You don't just want to put up ads, throw them at a wall, like throwing spaghetti at a wall and hope it sticks. You want to make sure you've got somebody that knows what they're doing and is able to perform and do these for you and test them over time. So yeah, this one was a 98 lead campaign. Conversion rate was lower. It was 10%, wasn't 20%. And they booked 9 jobs. Their average ticket in an area was 19K. Made them 171. So off a $2,000 ad spend, you got an 85 to 1 ROI. This is in a more competitive area, right? This is 93 bucks. This is West Palm Beach. Central Florida, Florida in itself is really cutthroat. There's a lot of private equity companies gobbling things up. Licensing is a little bit more loose down there than it is up here in Illinois. But still, about $100, we were able to get them 37 leads for their campaign. And we did the same thing, just very local area targeting in their backyard, single keyword ad groups, and these were the results that we got for them. So these guys, 37 leads. Their conversion rate was 13%, so a little bit better than the last one. 37 leads, 13%, 5 jobs. Their average ticket was also 19K. 5 jobs, got them 100,000. Their ROI was 31 to 1. These guys are a little bit higher profit margin. I think they're like 35. So even at a 35 to 1 gross, the net would be a 1 to 10 or 11, which is still pretty good. So I'm positive that Google Ads work. I just want to make sure that you guys know that these work. And hopefully you do. That's why you're here, or at least you're interested in finding out why. So now we're going to talk about how to set up the ads and drive the ROI. The key, think of it like a combustion engine. Too lean, it's not running right. Too rich, it's not running right. So I always ask people, what's not the least money you're willing to part with, right? But what's the most money you're willing to part with? Is it spending $1 to make $10? Of course, 10%, my hand is up. Is it spending $2 to make $10? Sure, my hand's still up, right? $3, $4, $5, the higher it costs for you to get a job, obviously, the less money you make. You always want to make the most possible, but you also don't want to choke yourself as well. And so you really have to ask yourself, what is the most? And that's for you to decide, not me. I can't tell you. I know what I'm willing to part with, but you are going to be different. On average, our clients step over 3 pennies to make $1. So that's 3% of a marketing spend. So our guys are pretty happy with the results that we get. And these are the rules that we're going to go through. Structure your pay-per-click campaign. I'm going to be touching into these further down in depth, but you got to remember, Google wants your money. You need to keep track of everything. You need to keep everybody honest, even the people that you're working with. There's a lot of people that always promise you the world and deliver junk, right? So you want to make sure that everything is transparent, everything is open. Google wants your money. They want you to spend money as fast as possible. They don't care if you're in business or not. A company like myself, I want you to be in business for life so I can partner with you and grow with you. We only want to partner with good fit companies. So our alignment goes hand in hand. We're always trying to make you the most money with the least amount of money possible for you to scale and grow. But you got to track this stuff. You've got to break down the campaigns. Your keywords, negative keywords are even more important than the actual keywords. And we're going to really do a deep dive into that. Standing out, writing ads that get the clicks next to everybody else that's out there as well. Better the ads, more clicks, cheaper the cost per conversion and per customer acquisition. And then using ad extensions. They have all these cool ad extensions that are great ways to get somebody to click on your stuff. And we're going to really dive into that as well. Landing pages, I'm going to do a whole nother training on conversions, but we're going to touch a little bit about landing pages and talk about conversions. And as always, you've always got to be testing these. These things change. There's a seasonality of our business. Nobody's getting a roof done the day before Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, let's face it. So even if you're in the tropics, there's still seasonality to what we do, right? Always testing. And this is like my first rule about Fight Club moment right here. It's like, don't ever spend a penny without having a transparent tracking in place that you own that you know is 100%. So let's talk about like what are the tracking conversion essentials? Phone number swapping. You have to track everything. You have to track these phone numbers. And we even have them swapping out for the different ad campaigns. They call them keyword pool and dynamic number swapping. Your forms, your landing pages, your conversions. You have to track all this stuff. You have to know what is performing, and you also have to close the loop, right? You don't want to just, great, I got all these clicks. Okay, did it turn into a sale? No, you have to put that back into the system so Google knows what's successful or not. And this is always in flux, but these are like the KPIs of track, right? You're going to track your total spend. You're going to track your cost per click, your cost per lead. And these numbers vary in different markets. Low competition markets, about $100 to $200 a lead. Mid-tier metro markets, 300. It could be 5. I mean, if you're in Texas, it's cutthroat over there, right? Major competitive markets. And then cost per acquisition. You want to make sure that you're getting a 20-30% close rate and you're closing on these and you're not dropping the ball. Because it's expensive. It's expensive to drop the ball. This is very expensive stuff. And then most importantly, you'll see this a lot, ROAS. So every dollar you spend, how much are you getting back? So they say a good way to gauge like a 5-to-1 ROAS is like minimal. Anything below that, you probably want to ditch it. 8 to 12, very strong. 15 and up, scale. And this is only going to get more expensive over time with AI coming out and new things coming out as well. Think of it like steak and gasoline. These prices only go up, and once they go up, they seem to never come down, right? A little trick too is like the better your trust signals are in your ads and in your marketing and the way you present yourself, it's going to fall into this as well. It's going to be cheaper. Trust signals are like your reviews, like the way you present yourself, the branding on your trucks, the way your website is, all that stuff, the way your landing pages are, the associations that you're in. That also helps with conversions. And this is a sample of like the dashboard that we use, okay? Like you need to have a dashboard. This is a must, right? You could get away with doing Excel spreadsheets and junk like that, but there's so many softwares out there. We use a company called Agency Analytics that ties into everything. So it ties into all this stuff, but also ties into your Job Nimbus or Service Titan or whoever uses your back end CRM as well. So you could do the full loop. And just to kind of give you an example of this, I put in like this is what 100 leads looks like. You spent $1,500 to our services, the marketing company, another $1,500 for the actual ad spend. Also, don't ever let anybody mark up your ad spend. Always have that transparent. And this is your cost per lead, right? 3,000 divided by 100 is 30. But once again, 40% of these leads are going to be junk. People trying to sell you stuff, right? So you really got 60 leads. So your qualified lead that you were able to book an appointment on was 50. So then you start to break down, okay, this is how many calls you're getting. These are how many are from pay per click. These are how many from local service ads. These are how many from form fills. And we even break it down further. This report, there's like 20, 30, 40 pages behind these reports. But this is like the dashboard that you can log in and look at and see every day. So you always know what's going on and it's not a mystery, right? And then this is the ROI portion of this report. So out of the 60 with a 20% close rate at a 19,000 a job roof, that was the projected revenue. That was your investment. It was 76 to 1. We checked with, on this one, it was Job Nimbus, and that's the exact money that they had closed for that month. And if something doesn't match, or something's disconnected, you've got to find out what it is that is disconnected so you can go back in and fix it. And then once again, this is on gross margin, not net profit margin. So if you're 20%, 30%, 40% margins, get that number down as well. And like I always say, it's not how little you're willing to spend, it's what are you comfortable with spending to make that dollar? What do you risk putting up in order to get a return? All right, the next mistake is the ad structure, right? Not knowing the right tool for the right job. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. And we're going to talk about how to structure these ad campaigns. Number one, buyer's intent, right? Very different from a residential, residential roofing guys. they're problem driven, they're searching when something leaks or breaks, or can't wait any longer. Sometimes they hold on until forever, it seems like, and they kick that can down the curb, right? But these are kind of the different intent campaigns that we run. Emergency and storm damage, things like roof leak, we could come today, storm damage, roof repair, emergency tarping. And then there's the roof replacement with financing for residential, because at the end of the day, stuff is expensive. If you have financing, it will convert better. Selling the payments, not selling the overall thing. Can you afford this for 149 a month, or no interest finding, or zero down? And then your inspections and preventative search, right? 21-point free inspection. Is your roof okay? Is it still in shape? Inspection with same day estimate. And then here you have the commercial replacement and maintenance as well. And the commercial is a whole different animal. It's a whole different funnel. It's a bid process. It's a lot different, but it's also a lot bigger jobs as well. And then once you get in with them, if it's a construction company or property management company, think of the residual that you get on top of that, getting the next job after that. This is how to structure the campaign. We're going to break down each one of these campaigns and talk about the structure and show examples. Number one, for emergency and storm damage, we just went over this, right? These campaigns are really win or lose based on speed, and not so much the ad copy or price, because it's a lot different animal when you're in an emergency situation. You want somebody that could come out today. You don't want to wait till tomorrow. Just like if you got a big hole in your roof, or a storm just came and blew a tree through your roof or whatever, you need somebody to help you now. And this is sort of like, the typical ad that you would want to see, right? So this is based off an emergency service, and you could see these little call to actions as well. Next one's going to be roof replacement with financing. Monthly payment is an easier frame than the entire job, of course, right? So financing plays a big play in this, and this is what you can use to position yourself over other roofers that don't offer financing. Or if it's your ad next to another ad and everybody's saying the same thing, this might be that one little thing, that one little ingredient that puts you over the top to make people click on your ad and not the guy that's running the ad right next to you. And you can see this is a pretty good one for us. Zero down, 18 months, no interest. Once again, you can also see hide sponsor results. So Google, they don't care about your ads. They care about the people using Google, your customers, right? This one is about inspections and preventative, residential, and a little bit of commercial. And the golden nugget on this is for pipeline development, not so much revenue. We all know that, yes, we want to do a roof replacement, but at the end of the day as well, getting the repair, putting them in your CRM, in your database, cooking it over time, and then getting the job later on down the road, that's where marketing comes in. That's really what we do well with. And you do that with touches and automations and things of that nature. And this is sort of like what we do, right? 21-point roof inspection, roofer near me. And you can also see the type of ad that has, right? Now we're going to commercial replacement, maintenance, compliance. There's a lot of residential roofers that think they're commercial roofers, but there's levels to that game. Commercial construction is very deep. There's a difference between doing a small flat roof on a gas station and doing the roof of the United Center where the Bulls play. But that being said, you can still get invited to bids and people are still looking. It's just a different animal, different funnel. Property management companies, construction companies, property development companies, they're doing a lot of homework. If you think a homeowner is doing a lot of homework on the commercial side, it's even more. And the trick is not to treat it like a residential. Just keep in mind, once again, who your intent is. So this one was for a flat roof repair, and you could see the difference. So takeaways on this, intent-based, a lot of these companies fail in Google Ads because they're just lumping it all together. Like I always use that analogy, a piece of pizza with 20 toppings. And the high-performing accounts, they separate everything, they optimize everything, and they rinse and repeat. For city and territory based, you have to beware on this, okay? So the map ads that you can put on the map used to be able to control everything that they did. Nowadays, they took that away and they call them PMax, Performance Max. You got to watch out for those. Performance max is like Google's pretty word for saying automated. Anytime you click any of the automated stuff inside of Google, Google wants your money. They are taking your money. So in order to set these up correctly, because now the only way you could do map ads is through this PMax, is you really have to set the guardrails up high. I've seen it so where we put an ad out there and all of a sudden they start getting ads in Alaska. I mean, it just goes to show that you really have to set those guardrails pretty high because they are in it to spend your money. And this kind of outlines the best tools for the job. So search, that's the core for both residential and commercial. The map ads, those are very strong for residential. Certain situations in commercial, depending on your specialty, what you do, the circumstance, different buyer's intent, you could go way further out, right, than just the map. Depends on how specialized you are in commercial construction, commercial roofing. I don't like PMAX's control, but I have to use it for maps. Display, that's for when you're a $10 million company. YouTube as well, that's another branding play. It could get very expensive and it eats up your budget. So you really want to start with these ones first. And now we'll talk about like web pages versus landing pages. I get this question all the time. We're going to be doing a training either next month or the month after about landing pages, web pages, conversions on those pages. I don't want to use that time in this webinar in particular because we're going to dive deep into that and we could chain it to that at a later date. But yes, your website, your service and area pages, you can use them if they match the ad groups that you're putting on there. It supports long-term authority. It supports SEO and AI, EO, and also the quality of what's on the page. Quick way to do things is put up a landing page. The only bad thing about the landing page is you don't get any SEO or AI juice off of it because they're hidden from search indexes. They're locked out. The good thing is you can put them up very fast. So when we do a campaign, or you start working with a marketing company, we could do Google Ads right out of the gate. We don't have to wait until your whole website funnel is built. We could do landing pages right now and run ad campaigns and get money in the kitty for you right now. All right, next mistake is people don't use extensions to drive these conversions. So extensions are like little widgets that gets people to click on an ad, whether it be a click to call, click for MAC directions, look at their BBB profile, to look at a service page, whatever that may be. But I also get the question of, is there a magic one that's better than the others? It's based all on buyer's intent. There's not one that outperforms another. You have to test that over time and test your ads. And this whole section I'm going to be talking about now is going to break down the ad extensions and maximize the conversions. And think of it like they don't just increase the clicks, like they pre-qualify your buyers. So we're going to talk about call extensions, right? That's speed, seriousness. When you need something done right now, like an emergency situation, or like I've already done all my homework and I know I want to work with you, I'm going to call you. So what does that look like? That's these. Little button, call us. Looks like a button. It'll help you get more clicks. So if you want people to call for emergency roof repair in an emergency situation, they're going to call you. They're not going to fill out a web form and wait till you get back to them next day. Next one up is location extensions. These are the ways you get on the Google Maps and it almost looks like a Google Map ad. It shows that you're the local guy as well, even if you're not a local guy, but you could jump into somebody else's territory basically and extend your Google business profile footprint. You just have to watch out. You don't want to really put yourself in areas that you really can't service or don't service. Or if it's in an area that maybe is close in proximity, but licensing wise, you don't have the license. Maybe you're on a state border or state line, something like that. And that's these guys right here. So you can see this pops up right next to the map and they put your ad in here and it almost looks like a Google Map ad except for it's got the little keyword sponsored. Next up is service and capability site links. These are like sorting intent, and then they can actually click on certain aspects that are linked through, right? And you can use different site links for residential, commercial. It speaks to the buyer without hurting the relevance of your ad. So like on this example, you can see, find a location near you, worried about cost, low cost roof repair, a fixed roof leaks fast. So it's different little call to actions that you can test. And like I said, there's not one that's like a magic one. To me, this seems like a lot to me, especially for metal shingle roofs, home roofing. I would probably not pick a couple of these. Like I always say, A/B test continuously. Capability callouts are kind of similar. You know, some examples are like licensed and insured, flat roof specialists, BBB, serving property managers. And you could see them right here, right? A plus rated, 5-star rating on Google, 100% guaranteed work. It just kind of backs up the rest of the content on here, which, this one they're going with trust, veteran owned, trusted, right? Fast, reliable, BBB, 5-star rating, guaranteed. They're really banking on trust on that one. The next one we're going to be hitting is really probably the most important is reducing wasted ad spend because we already hit the structure of everything. Now we're going to talk about reducing waste, which is very important, right? More money that you don't waste is more money you could put into a good campaign that can get you an actual re-roof job or a commercial roof job or make you actual money. The more money you can allocate to what converts, the more profitable you're going to be. So this is a huge mistake, not using keyword negative lists and negative filtering. It's to me, it's more important than the positive, to be honest with you, because Google will place your ads regardless, and they'll place them as far and as wide as possible. So you want to weed out things of the nature like DIY, free this, free that, jobs, careers, material only intent. You shouldn't be a database for GAF for certainty. You want to have a purpose of having them on your website, right? You're not trying to educate about a product so much as it pertaining to you, right? And what you do with it. Non-service searches with no buying intent, different brands. We see a lot of confusion. Like our last name is Taglia, so we used to be Tag Marketing. Well, there's probably 100 other tag marketings and tag roofing and tag this, that, and the other. So you want to weed out similar brand names. In the roofing industry, there's a lot. I see the same brand names over and over and over when I do my research. And then these are the ways that we set up our keywords list. You want to have like a big, gross one that is at the account level, and you want to hit these minimally monthly. You want to be able to hit these and review them regularly. On our big campaigns, we review these weekly. And then from that account level, there's the campaign level. So these are per campaign. And you have different campaigns, emergency, flat roofs, repair, replace. Those are all going to be different campaigns. That's going to be different negative keywords. And you also want to keep keywords out of certain campaigns that are cross campaign as well. And then at the actual ad group level, so per campaign, you mince it down into a couple ad groups as well, and that gets you even more granular. And just think about it, like if a search can't return realistically into a booked inspection or an estimate, it should never trigger your ad. Now, this is like one of my favorites as well. City and state exclusions, especially if you're like on a borderline somewhere. Like we're pretty close to the Wisconsin border, also Iowa border, Indiana. If you're close to that border and you want to exclude other areas, you really need to set your things right. Especially if you have more than one office. If you have an office and it's close to another office, you want to make sure that you're not interfering between the two offices. You want to carve out one for one area and one for another area. So nearby cities, bordering states, outside your real footprint, overlapping locations, stuff of that nature. And this one is really good. So generic company names, shared last names of owners or other similar companies, similar branding across regions. You don't want to be paying for other people's stuff, right? Especially if it's not for you. You don't want to burn that money. So I use tag as an example. So there's like tag roofing, tag construction, tag remodeling, tag home improvement. There's all these different tags that are out there, right? I like to keep the company ones because people do mistype and put the word company or LLC or whatever. I mean, if I'm roofing and I don't do home remodeling, yeah, I want to get rid of the home improvement, home remodeling, anything that doesn't have to do with you. And Chris also has a AI function that you could copy and paste into ChatGPT that'll help you alleviate this. So you can actually have the AI do it. And you can use this prompt in any AI platform. It just doesn't have to be ChatGPT. It could be Gemini or, the rest of them. All right, let's go into retargeting and automation. We're just going to touch on this. Like I said before, we're going to do a deep dive into this later in the year. But the most important thing is speed to lead, man. You wouldn't believe how many people just sit on leads and they don't jump on them right away. The faster you could get out there, the faster you could do the inspection, the better off you're going to be. You don't want to be the eighth man on the job. You want to be the first guy on the job. You have that at bat. Another thing is Google rewards the people that do pick up the phone, and it doesn't reward the people that don't, especially for local service ads. Speed to lead is one of their biggest triggers on whether or not you're going to get any more leads. So we use AI to book leads directly on the schedule for inspection. 40% of calls, they go unanswered. So we also use AI, more inexpensive leads in the off hours. So if you're only open 9 to 5 and you want least expensive leads with better conversions, do it in the off hours when your competitors are also bidding on those hours. So if you could do the weekends, if you could do the off hours, you might as well have the AI pick it up and take the message for you and book on your schedule right here, right now. And then obviously when you're back in action and it's 9 to 5, you have people follow up with it. But use this AI to your advantage. Back in the day, you used to have to hire phone answering services. Now you have AI, it's $100 for an AI agent and you're good to go. So it's way cheaper leads in these off hours, way cheaper conversions. And like I said, we're going to do a whole training on this in the upcoming months. They say after 5 minutes, these leads go cold. They show a graph and it drops. It's literally like, looks like you dropped off a cliff. And the average customer has to be followed up with over and over and over again. It takes 8 to 12 times sometimes to follow up with these guys. The way that the world's going, people want to talk to a machine. They want to talk through text messaging. They don't want to pick up the phone. They want to talk in other avenues as well. So you have to plan for that as well. Not knowing what you don't know can kill you, right? I always hear these over and over again with the clients that I work with, but also when I'm talking with prospects and other roofers and going through their pain points and challenges. So before you work with anybody, buyer beware. There's a lot of junk out there. People challenge me, challenge everybody, right? Be challenging. Before you hire anybody, it's questions that need to be asked. Like, how much of the ad spend is going to the ads and how much is going to your company? Are they using a third-party app? People still use that. Why should you be paying a percentage on top of what you're already paying somebody to just do what? They're marking up your keywords or they're masking the words that they're buying because they're telling you that they're getting good leads, but the leads are crap and they're crap and they're trying to tell you that it's not. And you know better, right? Another reason why people do that with like third parties and hiding the budget and hiding the keywords and stuff like that is like shady people will actually cannibalize your own brand name. So if I'm Taglia Roofing and somebody types in Taglia Roofing organically and I'm going to pop up, there's companies out there that'll take your money for your AdWord campaign, buy your own name, and feed it back to you. They call that cannibalization. They're feeding you your own stuff, food that you would have had anyway, super shady stuff, right? So you got to watch out for that. Another thing is hijacking ad accounts. Use your own ad accounts. Own your own accounts. Own everything that you do. I'm a big proponent on that. You need to own your own stuff, your own marketing, your own accounts, your own everything. I just had a client recently that happened to. And it's a challenge to get around. It really is. And then are they installing call tracking? What kind of call tracking? Is it going inside of Google Ads? No tracking, no optimization. You have to separate different numbers for different aspects. Different phone number on your LSAs, then on your paid ads, then on your SEO. And then you can even break it down even further for the different campaigns inside of your paid. And then what kind of reporting are you doing? I always tell people only get reports on things that you care about, that you have input on. My numbers are my numbers, but you have your idea of what success is. So my goal as a marketing person is to take what your goals are and mark them down for you so you can show, okay, these are the numbers you're trying to get. These are the KPIs you're trying to achieve. Let me build you a transparent system so you could see that. I always like to explain it like as if I were to die in a airplane crash and you had to tomorrow take over your marketing, would somebody be able to pick it up? And the answer should be yes. And you should always have that thought process as well. Like, am I so transparent and open that I can continue this on? And then what's your cost per lead, cost per acquisition, all that needs to be, reported on. And then is the company using their own landing pages? Is it going to your landing page? Who owns those landing pages? Are they good fit? What are they doing, right? Because you don't want everything going back to your homepage. Once again, you can't have all these different ads out there, all these different type ads, and then it goes to your homepage. I see this a lot on companies that do huge ad spends, and they're just sending it to the homepage and hoping that it converts. That's really not the way to do it. Split testing ads, you have to do this on a weekly, monthly basis, depending on the size of the ad campaigns. You can't just set it and forget it. Things are always changing. Google's always adding little tweaks, little buttons, little automated radio buttons to make you spend your money faster. Are they using ad extensions to dominate on the page to get more clicks? That's what we went through with the call extensions and location extensions and all those others. And then what are your targets? Getting the math right. Cost per lead, cost per acquisition, true ROI. Have it talk to your CRM and close that loop. And if they can't answer that clearly, don't work with them. If the spidey sense on the back of your neck is tingling, that's there for a reason. And then to summarize everything that we've talked about, to wrap this up, break down your campaigns and ad groups for your most profitable services. Start with that low-hanging fruit. Build optimized landing pages if you don't already have the web pages that are optimized for this that match up with your campaigns. Conversion tracking, paid versus organic, you've got to know the difference. And then which keywords generate calls at what cost. Optimize towards what converts and what doesn't. That 5-to-1 rule is a pretty good rule. Depends on what market you're in. If you're making a profit, you're making a profit, but it has to be in your head, your decision, not somebody else's, right? And then each ad group, you have to run multiple ads and you got to improve in base performance upon your click-through rate and your score, your quality. And then KPI dashboard, you've got to be able to look at that anytime and then test it against Job Nimbus and make sure that closes the loop as well. If something's off in one CRM and it's not reporting in the other CRM, it could be just because it ends at a certain month and you put something in there and then it took a month or two or three. So then you just have to make adjustments on your reporting. And as always, full transparency. Make sure you own everything. And like I said, we don't dabble in this. We only market roofers. We only do one per area. Our worst roofing partner last year, we added $1 million and accounted for 70% of their business. So that's our big claim that we love saying because that's our worst results. And we're very excited and happy about that.